Yo, what is up guys, it's your boy Sami here. Today we are gonna see what if Naruto becomes the mythical knight, part 3. Hope you will enjoy the video. So before we start, please subscribe to our channel and like this video. So let's begin the video.
Naruto and Team 10 had been walking for several hours when they had stopped to set up camp. Okay, let's see now, Asuma said, as he looked at the Genin. I'll feel a little better now with 4 of you. It's better that you learn, watch in teams of 2 to start, rather than having 3, then me, this way we'll get a better sleep. So Ino and Naruto will be one team, and Choji and Shikamaru another, while I'll be by myself. We'll only need to set up 2 tents this way. You mean 3? Ino asked, looking baffled. They had only had a couple of C-rank missions before, and none of Team 10 had been out overnight. So, this would be her first night camping. No, Asuma replied while rolling his eyes, as he stood a slight further distance, as he had a cigarette in his mouth, and he already lost 2 when he got too close to Naruto and Ino. The tents are all 2 persons, so you should stay in with your guard duty teammate, so you don't disturb anyone, or have an extra tent up not being used. We have to think logically about how we do this, and sensibly, understand? He asked, and she nodded slowly. I chose Naruto for your teammate, because I've noticed you're getting along best, but if I was wrong. No, I'm fine staying with Naruto, Ino pouted. But I would rather have my own tent, she said, as she turned to the boy in question, with her mouth hanging open in surprise to see a nice-looking black tent set up and ready. As well as a fire pit, while Naruto had just finished setting it alight, while the night was quickly descending on them. Yep, Naruto is the best, she added, as she saw how much he knew about camping. Troublesome, Shikamaru muttered while a little upset that Naruto was so much better prepared than him or Choji. It was going to take them ages to set up their tent unless Sensei helped them out, as they weren't used to camping, as this was their first time spending the night under the stars. Shikamaru made a mental note to find out where Naruto got his camping supplies, once they got back to the city. Don't complain just because my partner can set up a tent in seconds, Ino said, smirking smugly. However, she didn't know that Naruto's tent just unfolded and popped open, and all he did was peg it down, and his fire pit he had already made and stored in a ceiling scroll. He just didn't feel like mentioning that to them. It was their fault if they never thought to buy their own tents, and just go with village-owned crap. Asuma sighed, which got their attention. Okay, since Naruto has made their tent first, I'll take the first watch after I've helped you 2 set up the tent, then, Shikamaru and Choji will take your turn on watch, and last will be Naruto and Ino, okay. Ino yawned, and nodded her head while sitting with Naruto, as the others moved several meters away to set up their tent. She was surprised that Naruto was doing a good job of making them dinner, which made her feel bad for not doing anything, and she promised to make him dinner sometime after they've gotten home, as a thank you for being so prepared compared to her. It didn't take long for them to eat the sausages and salad with some juice before she got out her bedroll, as Naruto put out the fire. Ino was tired, as she followed Naruto into the cramped tent. They removed shoes or sandals before climbing into their sleeping bags and getting comfortable, as they lay side by side. Thanks, Naruto, Ino said while smiling, and she was thankful, as Naruto turned off their torch lantern, as her cheeks lit up slightly with her proximity to Naruto. Hey, it's no problem, Ino, he replied, and she was surprised to feel his hand stroke her cheek in a gentle manner for a brief moment. However, she was more surprised she left him, and felt safe, as she drifted off to a peaceful slumber with a smile on her lips, as her left hand searched for just a moment, and found Naruto's right hand, and held on tightly with her small fingers thread through his. Naruto's lips brushed the back of her hand in a soft kiss, before he pulled back, and snuggled in his sleeping bag with a smile, as he held her hand. Naruto knew Ino needed comfort. She wasn't bad like he had remembered, but maybe more naive, and in need of some enlightenment. Naruto closed his eyes, and was soon drifting off into a world where he would grow stronger. Ino, Naruto called gently, as he shook her awake by her shoulders gently. She was startled slightly, as her hands reached up cutely, and held him slightly, as she looked up at him blurrily, cheeks pink, and the torch was on, and she looked baffled. He smiled. It's our watch, Ino. I was woken by Shikamaru. He seemed to think if he tried waking you that you might have flayed him. She rubbed her eyes free of sleep with a sheepish smile. I might have, she replied with a small laugh. Well, I guess I've slept long enough, she agreed, as he pulled back from hovering over her, and she climbed out of her sleeping roll, folding it up, as Naruto did. The 2 then got the rest of their clothes back on, well footwear, jacket, etc. before climbing out of the tent, and past the 2 sleepy Genin boys. Naruto makes sure Ino doesn't kill them for having made her have to get up while they put their sleeping rolls away. Come on, Naruto said, leading into a little from camp, and walking up a tree, but stopped on the trunk when he saw Ino wasn't following, but just looking at him in embarrassment before he jumped back down with a sigh. You can't do that yet, he asked, and she shook her head. Well, hop on my back, and I'll carry you, we'll get the best vantage in the trees, okay? She looked even more embarrassed, but nodded anyway, and let him help her onto his back where her breasts pushed up against him, and before she realized they were running up the tree, and landed on a high thick branch before he let her down, and they both sat up against the trunk side by side, which gave her heart the time to slow down. You know, being a ninja is not what I expected, Ino said after a few moments of silent thought. Naruto laughed a little, as he looked at her. If you want to just wander off and get captured, I'll be right after you, and be your prince, but the truth is while you're waiting for me they'll probably rape and torture you a little. So unless you're into that sort of thing, well, if you are, just strip, and I'll be as gentle or violent as you want. And Naruto, she complained, looking worried and embarrassed. I know it's not all candies and roses, but you don't need to be so brutal about it. I know it may not seem like it, but my mother talked about the risks with me before I graduated. Damn, that was embarrassing, and she even suggested that I go out and find a nice boy too, so that I can, you know, give my innocence away, rather than have it stolen like that, if I ever was captured by filthy dickheads. Naruto gave a few soft chuckles while she was looking so embarrassed having admitted that to him, and he took her hand holding it. Hey, not everything is how those morons portrayed at the academy, Naruto said with a shrug. Heroes and damsels in distress. It's because of all these so-called genius ninjas not wanting to learn all of the boring and true stuff that they skip it. Well, that's what I think anyway. It's either that or the academy teachers should be fired for incompetence. Well, they should be anyway for being incompetent morons, but he shrugged. Ino smiled, as she leaned up against Naruto, while holding the arm he held her hand with, tight to herself, as she snuggled a little to keep warm in the dark cool night, just listening to some hooting owls for a few nice moments. Yeah, I guess they could use some overhauling of the curriculum and stuff if I really have to think about it now, she answered sheepishly. You know, I think they should probably teach this tree walking thing to everyone before they graduate the academy, you know. Yeah, Naruto agreed impishly. But you know, Ino, I had never imagined you would feel so comfortable with me, he said smiling, and half expecting her to let go and move away, but she didn't. If anything, she moved closer if that was possible, and her hand tightened in his. She just looked at him with a very small shrug. I guess I just realized, during the time we spent together doing missions, well, you're a great guy, Naruto, and you're always helpful, which is more than I can say for the other three, Naruto-kun. She added the suffix, surprising him, as she tested it out, and seemed satisfied, so continued. Naruto-kun, I think deep down I've always known Sasuke was a jerk, and that I should look elsewhere, but I was maybe too invested after all the stupid kid stuff, and Sakura, but the way she acted earlier, and then you telling me I was acting like a fool through the academy. I just don't want to be like that. It's a waste when Sasuke isn't worth it. Mom always said I shouldn't waste my life because the world is full of so much death and crime that, well, I never really listened until now. I just followed the crowd. Naruto couldn't help but laugh as he pulled his arm from hers and wrapped it around her shoulders, pulling her into him. She smiled and wrapped her arms around his waist and cuddled up to his powerful body, feeling warm, safe, and relaxed. Thanks for understanding, she said, sounding happy. Don't think this means much yet, but it does mean I am getting hugs, and maybe some kisses if you're lucky, and I want to cuddle like this too. It's nice to feel warm in your arms, thanks, Naruto-kun. Naruto first replied by shocking her, as he kissed the top of her head. I guess that's cool, but you kind of have, well, Hinata-chan and Tenten-chan, and he sighed sadly, as he realized he had something more than fangirls with 3 different yet amazing girls, and wondered how he managed that. However, Naruto was surprised to hear Ino laugh. Hey, I don't mind, as long as I get to spend time with you two, to be honest. I don't mind sharing all that much because it's you. I know you'll be good to me, to us. I kind of expected something like that with Sasuke, if I ever got with him, because of the whole resurrecting that jerk-off clan thing, but now, I really don't want anything more to do with him or his clan. To be honest, thinking about it, well, over the end of this academy year, I was more interested in pissing off Sakura than having him. I guess I just started enjoying making her jealous, even though she really didn't have anything to be jealous of. Hey, don't, Naruto begin, but trailed off, as he tensed up, and Ino quietened, as she noticed. Naruto slid from Ino, and stood up looking out over the dark forest of the mountainside below. Ino sat still and quiet, as she watched Naruto scanning the environment below. Mountain Lion Naruto spoke quietly, as he watched the shadow of the creature stalking closer, while Ino carefully stood with him, and watched the creature from the safety of the tree. They're the main reason we have guards unless someone's hunting for us. It's normally a fluke that we might get attacked by other ninja or bandits, as the forests are so huge, but other than that, it's just the wild animals hoping for a free scavenge. Ino nodded, as she could just make out the animal's shape down below, and watched, as Naruto threw one kunai, and it sliced through the air, but surprisingly didn't hit the lion, but the ground before it, and scared it off, as it ran in the opposite direction to camp. You miss, Ino said after a short while, surprise. Naruto turned to her with a smile. I didn't want to kill it. It's only an animal. It's only looking for an easy meal, some leftovers. Humans can be idiots and leave their trash, such as deer or whatever else they hunted that they didn't finish, and animals will remember where to get a free meal. The lion most likely wouldn't have eaten one of us, wouldn't be strong enough for one. It may have just sniffed around and left since we cleaned up after ourselves and haven't been hunting, but it could have killed or hurt a normal civilian or weakling ninja if it felt threatened. Humans aren't really its diet. I doubt it has ever tasted human blood before. I had no reason to kill it, and even if I were in a scuffle with it, I don't think I would kill it. It could be a mother with some cubs that would die if I killed her, and that would be a waste. We shouldn't be quick to mess with the natural world when we don't have to. Ino looked at him in surprise. I would have never thought about it like that, she said slowly, as she managed to win her way into his arms, smirking, holding him tight, her cheeks red. I like that you would choose the high road. I don't know what I would have done, but I think I might have hurt it, mainly because I'm a terrible aim with a kunai, but also because I wouldn't think about why it might come so close to us or well, ahead. Naruto smiled at her words. As they grew closer, their lips touching, they kissed gently, their eyes closing, as they moved with emotion, as they held each other. Naruto's tongue entered Ino's mouth, playing a battle. The taste was nice, exciting, and Ino couldn't help but thread her fingers through Naruto's hair while he grabbed her arse, which seemed to cause her tongue to move more fiercely as he pulled her into him. However, he pulled back breathlessly moments later, his right foot snapping up, but was caught by Asuma-sensei, as he stood on their branch smirking, the match he had struck to light his cigarette going out with the wind from the force of the kick. Asuma-sensei, you pervert. Ino growled out angrily while Naruto pulled his foot back. Asuma chuckled with a smile. Well, at least one of you sensed me, he said with a laugh, but he was looking a little tired. I've been lying awake since my time was up, and you sensed both the mountain lion and me, Naruto. The other two didn't sense me even though I had been watching them for a while, but I knew you were better than Naruto. I could tell you weren't as oblivious while we were walking as the others, but I didn't suspect you were such a ladies' man. Well, someone has to be, Naruto retorted, annoyed. So, this was all a test of our observation skills. Yep, he agreed, smirking. And only you passed. I had been on this tree for a millisecond when you reacted, and well, you were so busy too, he added the last, causing Ino to turn a dark red, but Naruto was unaffected. Well, anyway, good job, you just got into a fight with an enemy ninja, and didn't just lose your head. No, you lost yours, Naruto said with a kunai in each hand to Asuma's neck, as he stood behind the man, while the Naruto in Ino's arms swished away with a small amount of smoke. The sensei's eyes widened, as he felt the blades to his throat. Don't you know interrupting a guy with a beautiful princess is bad luck? I'll remember that from now on, Asuma answered nervously, as he actually felt the sharp blades nicking his throat. Damn, I think you win the sneaky student test too, he said, as Naruto let him go while smirking. You were fast, and I'm afraid I fell into the trap of underestimation. Just because I'm the does not mean I can't die at the hand of a genin. I hope to remember this, and hope even more that you don't tell anyone. Oh, we won't, Asuma-sensei, Ino agreed with a smile that turned nasty. As long as you don't tell anyone either. Deal, he replied sheepishly. Well, I'll get back to my tent. You two wake us at 6 am, and we'll continue on our way, he said, as he quickly jumped from the tree, and went on his way. Ino couldn't help but laugh. I can't believe sensei, she said, as Naruto walked back over, and wrapped her in his arms smiling. Yeah, well, I got him good, he replied, smirking. I've been working on my substitutions, and shadow clone zoning, add the two together, and I'm a magician with the ultimate disappearing, and reappearing act. Ino grinned, as she leaned up, her lips kissing his before pulling back. Well, marvelous, and Mystical Uzumaki-sama, maybe you could have your tongue disappearing back into my mouth. I was enjoying our session before we were interrupted to ruin a girl's first kiss. Naruto smiled wider, as he leaned down into her lips, pulling her tight to his body, before pulling his lips back. I think I can be the greatest sorcerer to have lived if only given the chance, he mumbled, as he kissed her some more, his tongue tasting hers. Her tongue sliding into his mouth, and she let him suck on it in his mouth. He pulled back off her tongue with a smile, as their lips peeled apart, and their eyes fully opened, looking at each other with smiles. I think I'm going to love your magic, Ino said, as she cuddled into Naruto's arms, happy and comfortable. However, Ino screeched out a moment later, as Naruto held her tighter, and jumped up, and back off their branch, as it suddenly shattered in a rainstorm of splinters. Naruto landed them on another tree, and they looked over in surprise, eyes darting all over, but they couldn't see anything. However, they could both see from the moonlight that huge claw marks were on the tree trunk opposite them. Naruto, what is it? Where is it? Ino whispered in his ear, scared while she held onto him tightly. He could actually feel her shaking, as she tried to see what attacked them, and could shatter such a huge branch like that. Naruto just shook his head. I don't know, but whatever it is, it's big, invisible, on that tree holding on with huge claws, and looking at us while emitting tiny groans that rumble from its chest. I think it wants to eat us, he said, staring at the location of the claw marks without blinking or looking away, which made Ino realize it was still there. Then what should we do? Ino shakily asked, as she couldn't move her eyes from that spot now either. We have to wake Sensei and the other two. They're already awake, and Sensei is in the tree on the other side, Naruto replied without dropping what she could only assume was eye contact with the creature. It won't attack until it senses, and opening whatever it is isn't just a stupid creature. This one must have waited for us to be distracted before it attacked. I think it has wings because it came from above. Ino actually gulped. That I've never heard of invisible creatures before except those little lizard ones, but they're not really completely invisible. Yeah, Naruto agreed, as he pulled Ino from him without breaking eye contact, and moved her behind him slightly. Ino-chan, I need to move, okay? He asked while she nodded, and let go of him, as he drew kunai for each hand. Ino flinched, as she now heard the growl, as the creature must have realized that Naruto was going to fight it. It knows we're about to engage. It's such a clever thing. It's kind of fascinating, but I have no choice. Ino watched Naruto with worry, as he still stared down the creature with his kunai before he moved. Naruto shot off the branch, and Ino watched the monster's tree trunk crack, and heard a huge roar. Naruto rolled round, as he flew through the air. He stabbed his right kunai at what looked like nothing, blood splashed from nowhere, as the monster roared in pain, and Ino saw it. It flickered from thin to invisible, and back again. It was a dark blue thing like a pit bulldog, only huge, the size of a horse or cow, and without fur like a reptile, and had huge giant black bat-like wings, and a huge mouth full of razor-sharp teeth. It had 4 muscular legs with massive claws, and dirty gray spikes in twin rows from its massive head down its muscle-full body to end at the tip of its tail, and even spike-like talons on the end of its wings. It was a hideous snarling monster drooling masses of saliva. It has pitch-black pit-like eyes that seem to project anger and hunger. Naruto spun around with it, smashing his second kunai straight into it, more blood spraying with roaring screams, as Naruto hooked onto the beast, and was shaken, and dragged back with the momentum of the monster. They were coming towards Ino on her branch, as Naruto held on. Naruto grabbed its left wing, and pulled at it, while the monster flickered between there, and not, and they veered to the right, and crashed into a tree. Asuma appeared while Naruto was kicked off, landing on the opposite tree trunk, standing on the trunk looking up, as the monster scratched and clawed, flapping its wings, as it tried to stay on the tree in its pain. Asuma-sensei had both of his large trench knives drawn with winged blades slicing one of the monster's wings off. It screamed while its blood splattered, flickering one last time, as it fell from the trunk staying visible, as it hit the ground with a huge crash and crunch of bones. The sensei finished off landing on the trunk of the tree, taking a deep breath while the creature cried out. He looked at Naruto, as he was getting his bearings. You, okay, Naruto? He called out, getting a quick nod. He looked back at the monster, as it climbed to his feet growling in anger and pain, as it still had 2 kunai in its torso, left by Naruto. It went to move when it totally froze. Shadow capture, success. Shikamaru said, as he came out from behind a tree with Choji. A long shadow came from the boy holding the monster, but it was obvious he was struggling to keep it trapped. Naruto took the chance with a kunai that hit the monster's head, but the attached exploding note caused it to scream, as it blew in fiery death, which made Shikamaru fall back, as he lost his hold on the more powerful creature, falling to his butt. Asuma went in with wind-blasting trench knives, and the monster's head came off in a gurgle of final death and blood, as he landed beside it, panting for breath. They all watched, as the blood ignited, and they could only stare, as the monster melted away into a puddle of goop. Though, that allowed them all to sigh a great relief, as it was over. Okay, we're leaving now, Asuma said, taking a few deep breaths. It's 3:35, he said looking at his watch. I say we complete our mission, and get back home ASAP. I'm sure the Hokage will want to know that some kind of demon attacked us, so that he can warn others. Naruto, I'll clear up your stuff, and pack it while you get Ino, and both continue to keep watch out. Shikamaru, Choji, start on the other tent, and I'll help when I'm done, okay? Yes, sensei, they all replied, as they all went about their jobs. Naruto was almost knocked out of the tree, as Ino nearly jumped into his arms, her legs wrapped around his waist, as he held her, hands on her tight butt, holding onto her tightly. It was a nice welcome, and he could get used to it, as her breasts pushed their tightest into his chest. Do you have to keep surprising me like this, Naruto-kun? Ino demanded with worry. But seriously, what was that thing? I'm not too sure, Naruto answered looking down at the goop. Some kind of demon I suppose. I've never really thought to read about demons, or actual magic or anything like that. Don't worry, as soon as the others are done, we'll be out of here, finish our mission, and home before you know it. Okay, Ino replied smiling, as he kissed her lips comfortingly. Meanwhile Shikamaru looked to their sensei, as he had finished fast, and came to help them. He had a curious expression in his eyes. Sensei, how's Naruto doing these things? I saw him, and he could see that thing while it was still invisible. Asuma just shook his head. He couldn't see it, but he could sense its presence, hear its breathing, and smell its stench even better than me. But once I was close enough, so could I. Naruto seems to have a better sense of awareness than most. I see, Shikamaru replied thoughtfully. I guess there's a lot we don't know about him. I feel kind of bad for not getting to know him properly, and then I wouldn't find his talent surprising. Asuma could only nod in agreement. He's pretty good with sensing things. This probably makes him better than we would think at Jujutsu. He has talent and potential that we were all too ignorant to see, but no matter what, that hard-working genin will go far in life, no matter who tries to stand in his way. Ino was understandably freaked out after the incident with the monster bat dog demon thing, so she was keeping really close to Naruto, holding his right arm and hand, fingers interlocked. They walked in the early morning. It was only about 8 in the morning, and they were looking around for some of the herbs around a large rounded plateau up the side of some cliffs, and the beginnings of the Fire Strike Mountains. There's some, Ino said, as she pointed out the pink plants, and they all rushed over to inspect the pink flowers, but they looked a little crispy and dry around the edges. They're dying, she said, as she dropped to her knees to look them over. The area they were in was highly lavish with greens, and plants of many descriptions and colors, but these plants seemed to be the only ones suffering. It was strange with all of the ravaging life around them, and they wouldn't grow any higher, as it would be too cold. I don't understand why they would be like this, Ino said sadly. They're useless like this, they're too badly damaged, but we could see what the hospital thinks. They still have perfectly usable seeds, but to grow them would take too long, she finished, as she picked a few of the dying flowers, and places them securely in a Ziploc bag before putting them in her kunai pouch. I think we should continue looking for some better samples, Asuma replied while looking around. We don't want to just up and leave without looking for less damaged plants. They normally grow in the deserts around oases or desert rivers and lakes, so we're probably lucky to get these, Ino said with a sad look. The only reason they grow here is because it's nice and hot for them, and the humidity this time of the year, but it looks like it's been too wet this year. I think that the temperature might have dropped too much for them to survive, she said to Naruto, while she walked off with him. Naruto sighed, as they walked from the others looking around in the hope of finding some of the plants in good shape. Though they did find some, they were even worse than what they had already found, so they left them alone, as they weren't worth bothering with. It looks like we're not going to find anything better short of heading into the desert, Naruto said after several moments of looking, as they came to some huge rock formations, not sure where the rest of the team got to. I really don't want to have to go to the desert, only to be attacked by some stupid sandworm demon or something. Ino grimaced at the thought. Yeah, I don't think I want that either. Naruto-kun, let's just get out of here. Hope Sensei will see reason, and let us head home. Maybe we could hire another ninja team. Aren't we allies with Suna City? And that's in the desert, get some of them to deliver some. Naruto shrugged with a small grin. We could pick it up from them. I heard they have some huge casinos, and 3 massive theme parks. Trust you, Naruto-kun, Ino reprimanded with a small laugh. Though, that does sound more fun than this, but I bet the hospital asked us to come here because they need the herbs, as quickly as possible. Naruto pouted while he nodded. Yay, I already thought of that, he replied sadly, while Ino laughed at him. They were about to leave, and head back to find the others, when they heard a little squeaky whistling sound echoing from the rocks. It startled them, and Ino was careful to keep close to Naruto, as he checked it out. They found a large entrance into the rock formation leading into some dark caves, and Ino had to grab Naruto, as he was about to crawl in. Naruto-kun, she whispered in reprimand. Don't just go into creepy dark caves. It could be dangerous, and I don't know. It might have an evil demon in there ready to eat us like the last one. Naruto looked at her while rolling his eyes. Don't be silly, Ino-chan. I doubt we'll meet another. I hear running into demons is rare at best, as they tend to keep clear of humans, as we like killing them, he said while she winced, as that was likely true. So, I don't see why we can't investigate. If you're worried about Ino-chan, I'll look after you, or you could stay here. Ino sighed while pouting cutely. Okay, Naruto-kun, I'll come too, she agreed while he smiled brightly, and led her into a dark, damp hole in the ground, before turning on a torch she pulled from his pocket. Looking around the cavern, Ino's eyes widened, as they both had to kneel, as it was too small to stand. It had drips coming from the rocks, and it was quite warm. However, she followed Naruto, as he started moving in on all fours, so she tried walking like that too, soon releasing it allowed her to move faster than on her knees, and with less pain, and she got to check out his rear, so she was quite happy. Naruto and Ino paused for a moment, as they heard the squeaky mew more and louder underground, and Ino couldn't help but feel sorry for whatever creature it was, as it sounded like crying. They carried on further, turning bends and tight, down and up and down again, and through squeezes that they could just about squeeze through with Naruto's help pulling Ino through after him. Ino knew her clothes were now filthy and a little torn, but she could deal with that, as Naruto had just helped her through another tight fit. She couldn't help but feel amazed, as at certain points he had actually broken solid rock to help them get through, and though didn't appear to break skin or bruise or anything, looked like he may have strained himself somehow, and though Ino worried, she chose to say nothing. As Naruto seemed to just shake it off within a few seconds. What kind of creature is it? Ino asked worriedly instead, as she could hear it more, the further they got to it. It was such a sad sound that she just hoped whatever it was would be okay once they got to it. Well, she hoped they were traveling to save it. It was like it was calling out, and she couldn't help herself but feel the need to protect it. Do you feel it's crying too? Naruto asked after what might have been hours. I feel like it's begging for help, but I don't quite get how. Yeah, Ino replied, worried, as they had to crawl on their ties. The ceiling was that low, and she was feeling a little claustrophobic, and talking was a good way to take her mind off it. I think it's like a young girl, maybe she's in pain, and I know we have to rescue her, but why would any creature come down here? We're down, aren't we? He asked, sounding amused. Just hope I don't freak out, as I'm having trouble. It's so narrow. I've not been in such confined spaces before. It feels awful, but shit, yeah, look up ahead, it seems to be an opening. I can feel a light breeze, and smell some fresher air. No offense, but I could only smell water, and us before. Though, I do love your scent. It's nice, strong, and appealing. I'm not sure whether to be insulted or not, Ino said with a small laugh, as they both continued slithering inch by inch. How much further is it then? She asked, as it was squeezing her chest, and for once in her life, she was grateful that her breasts weren't very big yet. Maybe about 20 meters or so, not much more, he replied, mumbling, as he dragged himself by his fingers with his torch held in his mouth, causing him to drool a lot, and mumble his speech. That's quite the way when we're, as jammed, as we are, but it's an open cavern, and from the air seems large, and I can smell a large body of water. But Naruto-kun, can I ask you a favor? She asked, as she struggled on behind him, only dragging herself with her hands and fingers. Sure, go ahead, Ino-chan, he agreed, too tired and cold to joke about her question to ask a question like he probably would have at other times. Will you help me get stronger? She asked, as she tried to ignore the cut slicing her skin from a few sharp stones of the rocks they're squeezing through. Please, I was useless when that demon thing attacked us, and I don't know how to train apart from the training from sensei and my parents, but that isn't anywhere good enough for situations like this or that monster. I think I know I need help, please. Sure, but just keep this a secret, okay? He asked, and she looked up in confusion to see him stop, and looking knew he couldn't move anymore, as she felt barely able to herself. She started to panic, as she realized they were going to die down in the ground, buried alive. However, she was startled, as Naruto roared out in rage, and unbeknownst to her, he forced out Kyuubi's chakra to burn into the rock, and had to concentrate hard to keep the energy from flowing backwards, and towards Ino. Ino's eyes widened, as Naruto's body burst with crimson chakra that caused irrational fear within her, and she was sure she may have peed herself a little. Ino watched in horror, as Naruto struggled to move, and the ground started shaking. Ino screamed out Naruto's name, trying to get him to calm down, but it just made things worse, as he pushed himself up, and she could only watch in awe. The rock trapping Naruto was melting under his power, cracking, and ripping under his pure might, and then he moved, smashing through the rock on hands and feet, running with a roar so chilling it sent a shiver down Ino's spine before Naruto yelped, and disappeared with a splash, leaving Ino confused in the dark and tight tunnel. Ino had no choice but to move forward. She felt the plastic glass of the broken rock, as the tunnel opened up from where Naruto had shown her a glimpse of his true power. The rock was surprisingly cool to the touch, and smoother than it ever had been. She could breathe easier, but she was now worried about her partner. No matter what kind of terrifying power he had, she didn't care about that. She cared about him though. He was still a nice person, and kind, and a brilliant kisser. Not that she had any experience kissing, she just knew. Ino came to the tunnel exit pretty quick, and looked out into a huge cavern, which had a soft dim blue glow over it, as she looked down into a deep and dark lake below. She couldn't tell where Naruto was, as the red chakra had disappeared, so she flopped in with a screech and a splash. Ino was startled, as she felt Naruto hold her, as she broke up through the surface of the water, and could just make out his face in the cold water, as he assisted her swimming with ease. Naruto-kun, she said, holding on to him with a big hug. I was so worried, but what happened? What was that power you used? Where did it come from? It actually melted the solid rock. I really didn't want to use it, he said, and she could tell he looked sad. It's more of a last resort, though it was the diluted power of Kyuubi no Yuko, he said, causing her to gasp, but he was surprised she didn't let go. I'm Kyuubi's prisoner, the sacrifice, and Minato Namika's best hope he stays dead, or I'm so kicking his arse. No way, but that means she just didn't know what to say, but he felt it was better to be straight up about where the power came from, so she knew the seriousness. So, that does explain a lot, but maybe we should deal with trying to find shore. Agreed, he answered, as they helped each other swim, and crawl up onto shore of the dark cavern, where they looked for the source of the blue light. They were soaking wet when they saw some kind of blue sphere floating in the air with some kind of rose-red colored fairs floating trapped within it. They couldn't hear the continued pleas from an animal, but they knew it was from it. What's got it? Naruto-kun. Ino was quick to ask in worry. He couldn't help but look at her, surprised. You don't hate me like everyone else? He asked, seeing her in a completely new and brighter light. He was sure Hinata and Tenten would take the news well, but would never have been sure about Ino. I wouldn't hate you for something like that, she answered, as she flung herself into his arms. I mean, you are starting to be really cool, but this just pushes you over the top. If anyone has a problem with you, I don't care. If you didn't have the Kyuubi's power, we would be dead, or dying really slowly. Thanks, Naruto replied, relieved, as he accepted her kiss with his own. So, let's find a way to get whatever it is down, he said, looking at it in wonder, as he pulled away from Ino, and walked towards it before flipping left, and then back twice, as a huge green vine slapped out of the rocky dirt ground, and chased him. He had to move faster just to dodge. Naruto-kun, Ino called before another vine burst out of the ground, and almost speared her, but she managed to dodge back, near falling. What's going on? She demanded, as she watched in shock, as Naruto got captured in another vine, as it wrapped around him, trying to squeeze the life out of him. I don't know. Naruto cried out, as he tried to tear the vines from him, as Ino could just barely dodge the vine after her when Naruto forced in a deep breath, and spat out a huge burning ball of fire. The vines seemed to screech, as they withered, and dropped him to his hands and knees, breathing deeply, as his ribs felt sore and bruised. Shit, Naruto said, as his flames went out, and he jumped back, and skidded out of the way of the vines, but he had noticed a flash of light, and whimper from the creature in the sphere, just before the vines attacked. Ino, I'll take care of the vines, you try to free whatever it is, he called out, as he dodged into the path of her vine, and surprisingly took its attention, as it attacked him too. I think that creature controls the vines, but whatever made that sphere is using its power, so free it, and it'll stop. But how? I don't know, Ino cried out, as she watched Naruto weave between vines, as he charged the sphere only for some huge rose bushes to burst up through the rocks, and blocking his path, which caused him to flip backwards, and skid out of the way of a rose vine this time, which had some nasty looking thorns. I don't know, just do something. Naruto cried out, as he barely missed losing his life, as the vine, he avoided shattered rock rather than him. Ino grimaced, as she watched Naruto take a head to his side, and somehow managed to grab hold of it, and struggled while blocking a vine with his free arm. Ino looked to the rose bushes, and charged, hopping out of the way of a new vine, but that chased Naruto seconds later, as he got in its way while holding one vine in each hand, and spitting out continuous small fireballs to keep more at bay. Ino didn't know what she could possibly do. It was a nightmare situation. Ino made it to the bushes, and hid into them, cutting up her clothes and flesh, she screamed out, as she tried to force herself through. Please. Damn please. I have to save Naruto-kun. I have to save you. Nothing seemed to do anything for a moment when the vines and bushes burst into leaves, freeing Ino and Naruto from their struggles. Ino fell to the ground painfully, as she looked up to see the little creature struggling in the bubble, its bright green eyes open and glowing before the bubble burst. It squeaked as it struggled while it fell towards the ground, and Ino pushed herself up, running to catch it. She skidded across the ground, and the little red fluffy creature landed in her outstretched arms, as she came to a stop, holding it. It's okay, girl, Ino said, as she cuddled the creature while it squeaked in panic while shaking in fear. It's okay. It's okay, she said, getting the small and soft thing to calm down to a soft purring, as she stroked her soft fur. You okay? Naruto asked, as he stood over Ino with a bloody face, and a huge slash over his chest and arms, slashed through his shirt, and blood dripping down his right and left arms. Ino nodded, as she stood up with her new purring little friend. I think so. I just looked down at the creature, as it snuggled. I don't know, she said before looking back up at Naruto, and gasping, as she looked at the state he was in, completely oblivious to the ember of orange flame he was holding in his cupped hands. Naruto-kun, are you okay? You're hurt, she said in worry, as she looked him over. We should try to get out of here, and get you some bandages, and a doctor. I'll be okay, Naruto said, looking himself over after a couple of moments of confusion, chuckling. I heal really fast. The damage to my arms and chest have already clotted, and started regenerating. It's a benefit and side effect of being a warden to one of the most powerful beings on the planet, but it means I have to work harder, especially with chakra control, since I have so much chakra. Oh, okay, she replied, calming down with a few deep breaths, as she realized Naruto wasn't as badly hurt as she thought. Then how do we get out of here? This place is huge and dark. She almost fell over in shock, as her little red-furred creature burst into multicolored green sparks, and flew up, lighting the cave. She had turned into a bright fairy-like creature with milky white skin. She had large forest green eyes, and a tiny little nose, and mouth with long pointy ears up the side of her head with the tips a little higher. Her dark red hair was short and ruffled, but long on top in an array of messy spikes. The little fairy had dual transparent wings on either side of her back. Her wings were like a bright rainbow of greens with the edges tinted with some red. She was only about 9 or so inches tall, and she was wearing a red dress that looked like it was made from rose petals to hide her tiny body. She was glowing with green sparks of multiple different shades of green, lightening the cavern enough that Naruto snuffed out his flames. Wow, Ino muttered, awed. I can't believe it. She's so adorable, she said, which surprisingly made the fairy girl's little cheeks blush. "What's your name?" she asked, but the little thing just looked confused. "I know," she added, as she looked around at the huge vines. "I'll call you Vine. Do you like that?" she asked, and smiled, as the little fairy nodded her head valiantly. "Okay, so how do we get out of here?" Naruto asked the little thing. The fairy looked at him, and giggled, as she flew close to his face, and poked his nose before gesturing for them to follow her, so they had little choice if they wanted to get out sometime that day. They followed closely, as they needed the fairy for light while Ino needed her for light, as Naruto could see in the dark. The passageways were surprisingly large compared to how they got in, but needed a lot of climbing. However, once they reached a steep wall without any grips to get them up to the next corridor a few hundred meters up, Ino was stuck. However, Naruto smirked. "Okay, so I guess we should start with teaching you how to walk up walls," he said while she grimaced, and her little fairy friend found a place to sit and watch, while Naruto made a couple small fires to see better with. "Right now?" Ino asked nervously, as she looked to the solid floor. "If I fall it will hurt." Naruto came up behind her, and stroked his hands down her sides, and around her stomach in a hug. "Don't think too much about it, but remember, walking up a wall is easier than a tree, but it's still about the right amount of chakra in your feet. I'm sure you can get it right really quick." "Okay," Ino replied, as Naruto stepped back letting her go, and he watched her go at it. In the time it actually took her to get to the top, Naruto had to catch her only 3 times, or risk her getting brain damage when she landed on her head. But he was quite proud she had gotten so well in just an hour, but she didn't have nearly as much chakra to control. Ain followed Ino up with Naruto bringing the rear before they carried on their way. "I can smell fresh air," Naruto said after several more minutes of walking when they tuned a few more corners, where they finally saw daylight through a fissure in the side of the mountain. And they were blinking the bright light from their eyes, as they squeezed outside, and wished they found that tunnel to get in. "Oh no," Ino said sadly, as they had stepped out into a field of dying pink flowers. However, when her little pixie landed on her shoulder, turning back into her cute little ferret form, a radius bomb of green sparkles shot out in all directions around them, and they could only stare with mouths hanging open, as it didn't just revive the herbs, but made them grow twice as big. Ino giggled, as she petted Vine's head, and picked enough of the flowers, a few for her, and the rest for the hospital. "You're the best, Vine. I hope Mum and Dad don't mind me bringing you home," she said, as she put her pick away, while the little creature looked very happy and pleased with herself. "Ino, you're not supposed to keep nature spirits as pets," Naruto said, but she just gave him a pouty look. Okay, just make sure to keep her true form a secret, or you might have to be on constant guard for kidnap attempts, and trust me when I say it will be from the council. Those old bastards only think about themselves, the power they have, and how much more they can get. Don't worry, I won't let them find out," Ino said while rolling her eyes. "Naruto. Ino." They turned to see Asuma, and the other two staring at them well out of breath, as they were almost as filthy, wet, and cut up as Naruto and Ino. "Giant rose vines?" Asuma asked, and they nodded. "They just stopped about an hour ago, so I'll assume that was you too." "Yeah, that was pretty hectic," Ino agreed with a tired sigh. "Oh, what's this?" she asked, looking to see if their sensei was holding some kind of long green whip that switched to red halfway, the tip real thin, and a bright dangerous red. Ino didn't really think about why he was holding it with some sticks, and just snatched it off him, and looked it over. It was odd, and long, feeling like a plant, and leather all in one, go if you could believe that. She looked closer to see half hand in length, is a section scale running from thick to thin at the tip with a light green wrapping around the handle, and on the end of the handle, was a knot with a closed red rose, elongated in the same material as the whip on a green stem. "Wow, this is pretty neat," Ino said, giving it a test swing, and the other 3 moved back looking terrified, as it swished out with a huge crack. "Where'd you get it, sensei?" she asked him, as she rolled it up into a manageable state. "It's all yours if you want it," he said nervously. "That thing won't let us touch it." "Huh? It tried strangling us to death," Choji said, as he pulled out a bag of crisps from heck knows where, and started eating. "Those vine things seemed to be guarding it, and when they stopped, and we grabbed it, it attacked us." "Oh," Ino said, looking at Naruto for him to shrug, and take it off her. "It doesn't attack Naruto-kun," she said confused, as she took it back, and gave it to Asuma, only to have to struggle to get it back, as it went to strangle him again, but when she touched it to him while holding it, it left him alone. "Wow, I guess it doesn't like you guys," Naruto said laughing at them. "Well, maybe we should get out of here, and never speak of this dodged up mission again." "Deal," they all said in unison, as Naruto led the way down the mountain. "Ino, where did you find that ferret?" Asuma asked while he watched the girl put the whip on her right hip for easy access. "Oh, she followed me home." "But we're not home yet," he replied, as he looked at it. "And it's riding on your shoulder." "Well, that's what I'm telling Mum and Dad, so shut up." It had thankfully been quite the uneventful trip back to Konoha, where none of Team 10 plus Naruto cared to camp out again, so they hurried back to the city through the night. Though, it was made up for by the odd talk with the Hokage about their mission getting hijacked, but at least Ino offered up the herbs she collected, so the mission wasn't a failure. The Hokage had been pleased with the outcomes and upgraded the mission from C to B after Naruto quickly made up an underground adventure to put what really happened to shame. He didn't want to put the Hokage in a position where he had to lie to the council to protect Vine from them. Ino had been quite surprised initially, but was quick to go into lie mode, which was a speciality for getting out of trouble with her father, and he worked torture and interrogations, so she had grown accustomed to making it look good, even though she mostly just agreed with Naruto's story. She had to pay attention, so she remembered it. They were then dismissed, leaving the old man and Asuma alone to talk in private. So, do you believe in Naruto's storytelling, or do you think he exaggerated a little? Asuma asked with a raised eyebrow. Come on, we've all embellished the truth here and there, the old man replied smilingly. If we didn't, most of our adventures wouldn't be nearly as fun to tell or listen to. It's more these demons that we should worry about, rather than a little over-exaggerating. I've had some other teams either reporting second-hand sightings or seeing them themselves, but you're the only team attacked. I don't think we should start worrying, yet we all know that monsters walk the earth, just they've not been this active in a while since ninjas and countries were established, as they are today. If you see any near any human settlement, I want them exterminated. I've given this order to all my most loyal ninja. I'm trying to keep the council ignorant so they don't spread the knowledge around the city, which could spread out to other towns and cities and start a needless panic. I have already sent out some low-level ninja to bolster the samurai guard around the towns and villages where sightings have been reported. I'm also setting up a team to investigate the matter on the down low. I want you to keep watch out in case. It's probably nothing, maybe a migration, and things just need to settle down, but there's always the possibility of something worse, something big waking up, either forcing them out of their territories, or making minions out of them. Yeah, I got it, Asuma replied, as he lit a cigarette now the smoking police had left. Hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. Naruto gave into a quick, but searing kiss, as he left her at her house before rushing back home to take a shower, and get to bed, as he was filthy and exhausted. Ino smiled as she turned to go inside when she was startled that the door was open, and her brown-haired mother stood in the doorway with a teasing grin in place. So, you finally decided that the Uchiha boy, she said his name with loathing, as she always did, as she didn't like Uchihas, though Ino hadn't asked why, she was now a little curious. Is it worth your time? She finished off before continuing. It seems that you finally found a nice boy who will treat you the way you deserve. I thought you would hate him more than Sasuke. She asked, looking confused, as she was led into the empty flower shop. You know, her mother asked in shock. Ino just shrugged. He kind of told me. It doesn't matter to me. Heck, he's my hero. He saved my life several times before he told me. Our mission went a little haywire, but I can't tell you why, or even talk about why with people who say they know. It's S-ranked confidential. I understand, she replied teary-eyed as she hugged her daughter. Not even yet, and already holding confidential secrets from her mother. Oh Ino, I'm so proud, and then kissing a nice good boy who looks out for you, I couldn't be prouder. She said, as she pulled back, wiping her eyes dry. Squeak Vine interrupted, startling Ino's mother, as she looked at the cute little thing with hearts in her eyes. Ino, it's so cute, but you know your dad says no pets, she cried out, as she pulled it into her arms, petting it while it purred. Have you named it yet? Yeah, her name's Vine, Ino replied with a grin. She, followed me home, and well, don't worry about dad. She has some cool tricks so she can be like like my animal partner. Kibabaka has a dog, so I can have Vine. I don't know dear, what can she possibly? Ino's mother trailed off, as the ferret jumped out of her arms, and landed next to a freshly seeded plant pot when her green eyes lit up, and the seed grew before their eyes up into a small bonsai tree, causing Ino's mother's jaw to drop in shock. I see, so she makes plants grow, she muttered before squealing in happiness, and hugging the creature more. No mum, Ino said, pulling her new partner away from her. You are not using her to make all of the seeds grow faster, she said, causing her mother to pout. Okay, but that's incredible, she said, shaking her head in awe. But what's with that whip? Are you finally going to branch out into some new arts? Yeah, my whip was with Vine-chan, she agreed, smiling at her mother's crazy antics with a shake of her head. But right now, I stink, and haven't slept in about 35 hours. So, I'm going to take a quick shower, wash Vine-chan, and then we'll be going to bed, she said, as she took her partner, and headed out of the shop through the back door into the house. Ino's mother watched her daughter go with a smile. It would have been nice to have the little ferret helping things grow around the shop, but Ino did find her, so she was Ino's pet, and not hers. She couldn't even have a normal pet because of her husband's allergies to fur. She just hoped he didn't kick up a fuss about adorable little Vine. It was a lovely morning for Naruto, as he walked around his apartment with just a towel, as he dried off from a lovely cool shower that morning, and entered his living room. He had left his change of clothes on his only seat, a comfortable 3-person couch with a lamp on a side table, and a coffee table with just a few magazines dumped on it when the doorbell rang. He sighed, as it was pretty uncommon for anyone to come to his home. It wasn't like he had much furniture since he was barely in, and didn't entertain, so he never cared to get anything more. Shaking his head clear, he went to the front door that led out from the lounge, after wrapping his fluffy blue towel around his waist. "Ten-chan?" Naruto questioned, as he opened the door to see her looking angry with a katana in each hand, and both with some blood on the blades, and a bruise forming on her right cheek. "I told you I live in a dangerous neighborhood," he said, as he stepped aside, letting her in before closing and locking the door. "Fucking filth got away," she hissed out angrily. "I'm afraid I wasn't paying attention when I was walking past, and this huge stupid looking bald ouch just hit me. I think they shit themselves when I didn't go down and sewn these swords from my scroll. They didn't see my headband." "I see, I think I know the fuck you're talking about," Naruto replied, while Tenten suddenly went red-faced as she realized what he was not wearing, her heart pounding painfully in her chest. "He's involved with the local drug peddling arseholes. He's practically the bodyguard for this shrimp little prick whose father owns a brothel." Tenten was surprised, as she had never seen Naruto looking so angry before. In fact, she couldn't ever remember seeing him angry. He was always so kind, but this new thing was working for her. The growl that rolled from his chest and off his tongue made her quiver and feel weak in the knees. "Why don't we go and arrest them then?" Tenten suggested after a few moments admiring Naruto's solid chest and abs and trying to not show she was starring. "If they're criminals and we're Konoha ninja, we can do that, right?" "Unfortunately, not," Naruto replied, shrugging his shoulders. "They're too well connected. If anything, it would get us put in jail. The old man just isn't strong enough to fight against the corruption, as well as protect his ninja from the corrupt using them for their own gains." "Can't we just kill them?" she asked reasonably. Naruto shook his head with a soft chuckle. "No, the criminals deserve worse. They need to be paraded before all to see, to show everyone else that we will not tolerate fucks like them. Death is the easy way out." Yeah, that's true," Tenten agreed, feeling humbled to see Naruto so passionate about justice. She was not sure she had met anyone that really did want to help people, except maybe Lee, but Lee was too stupid and by the book to do anything behind the village's back like Naruto would. "Well, anyway, I have some ice in the freezer if you want," Naruto asked with his smile back in place. "Let me get dressed, and we can get out of here and find something to do." "I'm fine, and I'm good at hanging out here for a while," Tenten said with a sheepish-looking smile, as she placed her swords on the coffee table. "I'm actually hiding from my team, and yours. They teamed up for some stupid team exercises. Though, I don't think Kakashi really wanted to. He apparently wanted his precious Uchiha to get some experience with other teams, or something like that, but I think he really lost a bet with Gai-sensei. I still can't believe I'm getting away with not turning up to meetings," Naruto replied with a laugh, as he grabbed his boxers, but paused, as he saw her watching him, red-cheeked, as she realized he had almost changed in front of her. Tenten then went wide-eyed, as Naruto dropped his towel, smirking, as she saw it for a few moments before he pulled on his boxers. "Hey, don't stare if you don't want to see," he said laughingly while she was crimson. "You want another look?" "I don't mind at all," he said while she just stuttered at a loss, as he continued dressing. "I can't believe you just did that," she suddenly gasped out a few minutes later, as he sat to tie his boots, leaving his jacket off. Wow, it's no wonder you don't have anything to be embarrassed about." Naruto grinned, as he stood up and stretched. "So I have no entertainment unless you want to make out or something." Tenten was still blushing, but she moved closer and into his arms. She wrapped her arms around his neck. She stood on tiptoes while he leaned down, their lips touching in a soft kiss, their tongues just touching when there was a loud bang on the front door. Naruto groaned as he pulled away. "Damn, I never get visitors," and he moaned as he went to the door when he paused, as he took a deep breath. "It's Lee, and oh god, Sakura, how the hell do they know I live here?" "I don't know," Ino replied in annoyance, as she was just getting comfortable and looked slightly annoyed with the interruption. "Maybe if we ignore them, they'll think you're out and go away," she suggested, as they heard some more banging. "We know you're in there, Tenten, and you too, Naruto," Sakura yelled angrily from the other side. "Open this door now," she demanded, banging on it loudly. Naruto growled as he tore the door open and glared. "What the fuck do you want, Sakura? If you continue this shit on my front door again, I'll henge into you and declare your undying love for sucking the shit out of Sasuke's arse." Sakura just glared at Naruto while Lee, the bowler-haired boy, looked worried. "Shut up, moron, you wouldn't have the guts. You're supposed to be with our team, not here with this slut." Naruto and Lee both gulped and took steps back away while Sakura continued. "After all, only a slut would ever want a weak and crap-dead lass like you for a boyfriend like her, Hinata, and now you know too. It's pathetic." "That girl, say what?" Tenten suddenly growled out, which caused Sakura to look at her smugly. "This comes from the girl who throws herself at that duck-butted Uchiha, and then he doesn't even look weak like you. You really don't have a clue how outclassed you are compared to me." Sakura snorted rudely and looked even like a smuggler. "I'm on Sasuke-kun's team because I'm strong while Naruto gets the honor because he's weak and needs protecting." "Wow, someone's delusional," Tenten retorted with a sneer. You are probably the weakest kunoichi in all of Konoha, and I can admit that Naruto-kun is stronger than me. If you got serious while we spar, I'm afraid I wouldn't last more than a minute if I was lucky. It's because of our spars that I've learned where I need to improve, but you don't have a clue, do you? You don't train, and your sensei doesn't care to train you, so just get lost. I'll show you, bitch. Sakura suddenly roared out with a kunai in hand. I'll kick your ass. She stopped suddenly, as Tenten had moved under her swing, and crashed her right fist into Sakura's empty stomach, causing her to bend over coughing up blood, as she dropped her weapon. I don't give a shit about your sick fantasies of grandeur. Tenten growled out. You've got to stop running off at the mouth about shit you don't understand, and get lost. If you don't get a clue, and stay away from Naruto-kun, they'll be finding pieces of you all over Konoha for years to come. Tenten's right foot then spun up, and smashed Sakura back out of the door up against the outside wall. She fell down and whimpering, and crying with bloody lips, shaking, and scared, as her cherry green eyes looked up, shaking. Come on, Ten-chan, let's go find somewhere else to hang out, and escort this bitch out before she gets stupid again, Naruto said with a smirk while she nodded, and grabbed her swords, sealing them away before closing the door behind her. Naruto locked up before turning to Sakura, as she was shaking, and crying while Lee just stared, unsure what to do. Naruto then surprised them, as Sakura screeched, as Naruto grabbed one of her feet, and started dragging her while she screamed, and cried more. Sakura was even trying to kick him with her free foot, but each time she missed. He even dragged her down the stairs, hitting her head every so often. Lee looked like he wanted to stop it, but he just followed, feeling sorry for her no doubt. Tenten was just watching with a grin, as the so-called strong girl was getting humiliated, and totally defeated by the weak dead last. Naruto didn't let go of Sakura until they were outside his property's gates, where she was crying, and terrified. Naruto then picked her up, and threw her over his left shoulder, and she just let him. She didn't try fighting anymore. Sakura was weak, and completely defeated. She may have wanted to, but she just couldn't. She just continued sobbing. So, where do you want to go, Ten-chan? Naruto asked her, as they were walking off out of the district, and toward the shopping district. Naruto was acting, as if nothing was out of the ordinary. Tenten smiled at Naruto, and tried not to laugh. I don't know, what are you going to do with her? She asked, surprised, as Sakura just cried harder, as she mentioned, but still didn't try escaping. I don't know where she lives, he replied thoughtfully. But I suppose we can just take her out of here, and dump her in town, he suggested reasonably. Then we can go hang out somewhere, and get something to eat. Sounds like a plan to me, or we could just dump her on Lee. Great idea, Naruto agreed, as he nearly threw her at the surprised green spandex kid. Lee, don't leave her here, just take her home or something, but a word to the wise. I've met her mother a few times before, so I suggest just dumping her on the doorstep, knocking, and running away. Thanks, Lee, later, dude, he finished, as he took Tenten's hand, and they disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Lee looked at the pink-haired girl in surprise. He had been crushing over her, but seeing the way she acted in someone else's home, no less put him right off. If he weren't such a nice guy, he might have left her here to her own so-called strong self. However, he was a nice guy, and nice guys didn't leave weak, defenseless girls in this district, even this late in the morning. Naruto and Tenten were walking hand in hand, as they looked for a place to grab an early lunch, or late breakfast, when they noticed something weird. Is that Rock following us? Tenten asked with a tick on her forehead at how lame that disguise was. Yeah, Naruto replied, as they stopped, and turned back with a smirk. Hang on Ten-chan, I'm just going to take a piece since nobody's around, he said smilingly, as he let her hand go, and she tried not to giggle, as she had seen the rock move, and turn into a piece of the fence they were walking by. Naruto walked up to the fence, undid his zipper, and had nearly pulled out when a girl screamed, and pulled down the tarpaulin camouflage sheet. The two near 10-year-old boys, and a girl had been hiding behind it. The ginger-haired girl was blushing brightly while Naruto laughed with Tenten, as he did his zip back up. Who are they? Tenten asked, giggling. Because that was some seriously bad stealth. You should take some lessons from Naruto if you want to sneak around, she said, causing them even more embarrassment. Naruto sighed, and rubbed his forehead. This is Konohamaru-chan, the old man's grandson, he said, pointing to the boy with an overly long scarf, and goggles on his forehead, and mocking the word grandson. And then we have Yuden-chan, he added, pointing to the other boy with glasses, and a snotty nose, also sporting some goggles on his forehead. And last, but certainly not least, this is Mogi-chan, he said, pointing to the still blushing ginger-haired girl who had her long full hair tied up in 2 towers of slight outward angles. She was also wearing some goggles, as they were like their little gang symbol now. Nice to meet you, she said with a smile. I'm Tenten, she introduced herself. Well, aren't you kids cute playing ninja? We're not kids, Konohamaru declared, glaring at her. Who are you to Naruto Nai-san anyway? Are you his girlfriend or something? You were holding hands, we saw you. He accused teasingly. Possibly, she replied with a smirk causing him and Mogi to pout, but the other boy didn't seem that interested, as he wiped his nose on his sleeve. But why were you following us so badly? Did you guys want something? Oh, right, Konohamaru said, as if he had forgotten until now. He turned to Naruto. Ani, play ninja with us. He begged hopefully. I don't have time guys, he said nervously while Tenten looked at him in amusement. Ten-chan and I were going to get something to eat. Please, Naruto Nai-chan. Mogi suddenly asked while pulling on his arm with pouting lips and bubbly eyes. Come and play with us. Tenten-san can come and play too. How can you refuse that? Tenten said with a grin. Come on Naruto, we can grab something to go. It might be fun playing around for a change. Naruto sighed in defeat. Okay, he agreed, which brightened his younger friends. Well, is there a sandwich shop or something near here? I haven't eaten all day, my treat. Yeah, just around the corner is a burger place, Mogi agreed, as she went to lead them on holding Naruto's hand, as she was leading them when a swirl of leaves stopped them, as Kakashi and Guy appeared, the one-eyed sensei glaring right at Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki, for the assault on a teammate. Kakashi was interrupted by Tenten's snort. That's odd because I was the one who beat that weakling up, she said with a glare. Perhaps if she didn't go to my friend's home and start trouble I wouldn't have. She might have even stood a chance when she attacked me if you actually trained her. I am your superior officer. He growled, as he stepped forward only for Guy to step in too to stop him with a glare at his rival, while Naruto grinned secretly. Oh, Kakashi-kun. The feminine voice called from behind the man, and he spun around to look, his eye near popping out of his head to see three young and supply girls with nice sized busts sopping wet, and just wearing skimpy pink towels to hide their assets, just barely. They all had red hair of different shades, and green eyes, each girl a different height and size, but it was certain they were sisters, and looked both sad, worried, and sexy all at once. Please, Kakashi-kun. The youngest looking called out in a panic. We were bathing together when we thought we heard the door knock, but it seemed like it was just some punk kids playing games, and now we got locked out with only our towels to cover our shopping, and suds covered bodies. Oh, please Kakashi-kun, can't you please help us? Oh yes, Kakashi-kun. We'll do anything, please. You'll be our hero. We're begging you, Kakashi-kun. Well, which one is why your house? He asked just as Guy's nose exploded with blood, and he passed out, as they were passing through a small suburban area of the city that led into the shopping district. It's this one, Kakashi-kun, the oldest, said with a radiant smile, as she pointed to the window of the house they were next to. Look, Kakashi-kun, we left the bathroom window open enough. I'm sure you'll be able to get in through there, she said, gesturing to the frosted window. Okay, ladies, just hang on, okay? He said with a nice smile, having forgotten about Naruto and Tenten, and any punishment he might have thought, wrongfully, they deserved. Yes, Kakashi-kun, they chimed out dreamily with sparkles and hearts in their eyes, as he puffed out his chest in glee, before jumping up to the window and pulling it open. However, Kakashi wasn't expecting the huge fat bald old woman scrubbing herself in the tub, that her fat ripples and giant saggy boobs just didn't fit, and the soap suds had all disappeared, leaving nothing for his nightmares to put together. She looked at him, as he looked at her, his face going green before. Pervert. Kakashi had never been hit as hard as he went flying from the window, blazing across the sky with a trail of blood, and out of sight with a ping of light in the distance, while the others saw the bathing woman's face as she slammed her window close. The three sisters were in hysterics with Naruto, and gave Tenten cheeky winks and air kisses, before they wished away with little whips of smoke. Oh, damn. Naruto laughed. That was awesome, what a gullible douche. He continued laughing more with his three little younger friends. Well, Mogi and Konohamaru thought his prank was awesome anyway. You mean those sisters were hanging shadow clones of you? Tenten asked in awe while he nodded. Heck, Naruto, you're dangerous, and that's using tricks. I can't believe he was so easily tricked though. He's or at least supposed to be. Though, I'll admit even I was convinced. It's odd, those girls well, and the whole thing looks so solid. Naruto replied smirking, as he turned to the giggling academy students not noticing her look of complete disbelief. So, let's go get some burgers, and then we'll go play, okay? Okay? They replied, as they led the way, and Naruto pulled a thoughtful Tenten along with them, while she wanted to test out whether he could really make transformations that solid. She would have to deal with that later though, as she was a little hungry too.
That's it for today guys. I hope you enjoyed my video, and see you in the next part of this video. Till then, sayonara.